Judgecast.
Hello, and welcome to a Judgecast Throwdown with myself, Joe Bowden, and this guy,
J. Taylor.
Now, you might be able to tell from the way we sound that we have just watched season
8.
8, thank you, episode 5, The Bells. The Bells.
The Bells.
Let me be the first to say, what the fuck did we just watch?
I cannot register how angry I am. I am the antithesis of fan. I am.
You're the antithesis of fan.
Fandom. I am so gobsmacked. Literally.
Do you think? I mean, we've literally just pressed stop. Jay, do you think you can articulate why you're angry or upset? Sad? I'm not quite sure which emotion it is.
You know how, like, some things are kind of given slightly harsh reviews, maybe some of the DC films and things, because they're paying too much lip service to fans. They're bending over backwards to provide those kind of fanboy moments of whatever it is, the Flash racing Superman and stuff like that. And then something like Endgame or a lot of the Marvel or even The Force Awakens got just about right of giving enough lip service to fans whilst also providing intrigue and some twists and turns that you really weren't expecting.
Or like, you know, like bits that just kind of do a little bit of justice to the characters, whether or not you like it, like the end of Lord of the Rings.
Yeah. Or you've invested in the Lord of the Rings, in the Star Wars saga, and you get some kind of lip service.
No, not lip service, just pathos, just catharsis, just general, you know.
I just watched.
Get it?
I just watched 75 minutes of literally. It feels like a creative team doing the exact opposite of that, of providing nothing, of providing no pathos, of providing no enjoyment, of providing no weight or entertainment, or I can't. Every single decision in that entire episode feels pointless, and that's the worst thing. It's not like it wasn't. It was a character that I didn't like, or I did like, getting something that I thought I wanted, or I didn't think I wanted. It was just nothing. Everything was pointless. Everything was like I'm sorry, maybe that's just me, but it fucking hell.
I just remembered how this episode started.
Yeah.
And I just feel like, as someone at the beginning of their writing career, what the fuck was going on with the art, with the general acts, the general, like, we didn't see Daenerys again after the beginning of Act 2, I guess.
No, just right, fine round. We didn't really.
I've got so many questions.
And
they're not like intriguing questions. I'm just like,
no.
Well, what the fuck happened to them? And why did they do that?
Or why did we need to see Arya go through the same thing 4 or 5 times in this episode?
Just to get on a Palomino horse?
Yeah.
What?
We saw her quite early on in the episode, after she left the Hound, being shocked and awed and terrified by Daenerys' act. And then she got knocked out, or whatever we thought had happened, because Arya's not going to die. And then it happened again, and you're thinking, oh, wow, okay, well, now they're really putting her in peril. This must be the... And then it happened again. And she literally got covered in fire. The screen was covered in fire where she was.
And then didn't look like there was anywhere that she could go and hide. It's not like there was like a small cave.
And then she woke up again covered in blood and smoke. And it was like, what are you trying to get at? Like, what... And then she gets on a fucking white horse. Like, it would have been less weird and shocking had her the last surviving direwolf, Nymeria, come out of the fucking forest.
I would have loved that.
At least it would have been something. Like, it would have had some.
That would have been such a lovely bookend. Yeah. Yes.
But no, we just got this weird. Oh, I'm sorry. I feel like I'm overly
no, we've already
angry.
seen that movie.
I feel like I'm overly angry, but it just.
I feel like today there's been an awful lot of build up today. So the UK gets Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
At the same time, technically it's the US, but that's in the middle of the night. So for any person who has standard working hours, you're not going to watch it until the Monday night.
Or at least watch it and podcast about it. And we like to podcast immediately after we press play for some reason, but it's fun.
Well, it's authentic. Yeah, so I feel like, and today more than any other week, I had a couple of.
Yeah.
Do you know what? No, I was about to say I've been spoiled, but actually all the things that I thought I'd seen in spoilers didn't actually happen. What I thought they were, what was happening. So I don't even know where to begin.
Well, let's begin with the fact that this episode opened, and I said within the first 10 seconds on screen of Varys is one of my favourite characters.
You said, "Oh, I love Varys. Yeah. I think he's my favourite character." Yeah. And then 5 minutes later,
and that's fine. That's fine. This is a show that prides itself on.
He was going to die at some point. Exactly. I was amazed it didn't happen sooner. It was really sad.
Yeah, that had emotional heft. And there was a reason behind the death. There was Dany's discussion with Tyrion, all this stuff.
I loved that he was called the Master of Whisperers. His title within Daenerys' court was Master of Whisperers. And I feel like I want that title one day. I am the Master of Whisperers. No, I don't. It's not like I want small children doing my bidding. I just like the sound of it. The sound of the words. I'm the Master of Whisperers.
But yeah,
so cool.
From then on, it just felt like they'd forgotten every. You know how early on in, I think it was like season 4 or 5, there was a point where someone said, "Oh, someone's forgotten about the Iron Fleet," and the Iron Fleet turned up, and then again, and there's a video on YouTube where it's like David Benioff, DB Weiss, one of the writers, keeps going, and you must never underestimate the Iron Fleet. And this was like back in season 4 or something, and then they come back again. It's almost like the Eagles in Lord of the Rings.
I thought you meant the band.
They're back again.
It's another tequila sunrise.
But yeah, and this episode just seemed to, like, I don't know, they seem to forget what they'd written, and so suddenly Drogon is now essentially a nuclear warhead. Whereas Three Dragons aren't, and maybe that's because she's unleashed a little bit. If we give it some artistic license, maybe she was holding back in previous battles, maybe. But still, to build up from the end of season 7, the Golden Company, as in like, oh, this is something,
dead.
Me.
I'm not even gonna do it because I don't care.
Yeah, if you put this up against the Battle of Winterfell, where actually not many people died.
Not characters whose names
that
you generally remember.
And the impact of fucking hell, I keep saying Melisandre. Missandei's death last week. Impact of that. Impact of Rhaegar's death last week. And then to go into a episode where literally tens of thousands of people died, and it constantly feel cheap and pointless, and pointless, that's the word again.
In my notes, about almost 2/3 of the way through, I've just put, is this a B movie?
Yeah,
because it just kept on feeling like gratuitous violence. Not like, obviously Game of Thrones has an amazing budget and does do really well at special effects generally, but in tonight's episode they were not working.
No,
I'm not going to say they're the worst effects I've ever seen, because they're not, obviously, and the VFX team are obviously amazing,
and the creative team are fantastic, and
I totally respect them, but it just wasn't working. And was it because it was daylight?
But no,
like the Battle of Winterfell worked.
I think it's about creative decisions. There was a beautiful moment in tonight's episode, the first point when Arya is running away, and it was like through the very small alleyways, and you kind of followed her in this.
Was it a tracking shot?
There were points where it felt like a tracking shot, and points where it was kind of bird's eye view shot. And that worked really well in showing the terror and confusion, and that worked well for the first time they did it. Then they kept doing it, then they kept adding in more blood and more shots of, there's a point where Arya's with one woman and one tiny girl, and you see Drogon in the distance, and he somehow comes for miles and targets her specifically, and it just felt silly. It just
Daenerys, I know, has got issues with Sansa. I think she's probably still quite grateful to Arya for killing the Night King.
But even so, she's not going to see someone from that fight. It just felt.
Well, yeah, there's a lot wrong.
And the whole build up, like exactly what you mean, the mountain and the Hound, it felt like a B movie. It felt like the end of like some fucking Gods of Egypt film. Like it didn't have any.
Disclaimer:
weight.
We have not seen Gods of Egypt.
No, but that type of very CG heavy, big budget. Mm-hmm. They're meeting on the edge, and this zombie. Oh, it just it didn't. None of it felt like there was justice for any character. Absolutely.
For any character death.
Pointless.
And again, I mean, it's too late to say it now, but if you are listening to this and you've not seen this episode, then you've tuned into the wrong podcast. Not one death felt wow, apart from Varys. After Varys. And Varys deserves to have a wow death. But, I'm sorry, but we missed out on a really satisfying death for Euron Greyjoy because he's an arse.
Why did they bring him back?
Just fucking kill him. Just stab him in the head and walk away.
No, he was dead on the ships. That's where he was.
Yeah,
that's where he lived. That's where he should have died.
That was satisfying enough. I'm building up.
Whole thing with Jaime. Yeah. Oh, sorry.
He's just the beginning of my list. Call me Arya. I've got a list. Okay, so Jaime. I genuinely thought Jaime was leaving Brienne. Not because he genuinely was like, no, I love Cersei, I have to go to her. But I've got to sort out the red in my ledger, for want to quote Black Widow, so that I can be the better person that I've become. Like, he's got this, I feel like he's had this amazing arc from shit jock to jock who is not so shit.
Absolutely. It's been written really well over the series.
I've come to really love Jaime.
Yeah.
And I really thought he was going to go, and whether it was to thwart the Lannisters or to talk to Cersei, kill Cersei, I wasn't sure.
But it was done out of.
I thought it was going to be like to pay off the character that he has become.
Absolutely.
And instead they took him right back to season 1 and made him shit and
stupid. Nothing like his character. Yeah.
Totally stupid. And then I'm sorry, Cersei deserves more, and I don't mean as in I love Cersei, which unfortunately the soundtrack seemed to make us want to feel sympathy for Cersei. Don't get it.
Nope.
And then the way she died, I cannot imagine she survives the whole of the Red Keep falling on her head.
I mean,
but we have not seen her body.
No.
But that is not the way that Cersei should go.
That is not an ending to.
Someone needs to stab her. Hard
just
and watch the light go out in her eyes.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that in a I'm bloodthirsty way. I mean that in a you need to know she's dead and she needs to know who kills her.
Yeah.
Because that is the way that kind of arc dies. I've had a lot of red wine. I've got some opinions.
I don't know so much about Cersei. I know what you mean. Of it built her up to be more sympathetic.
That is not the way that Cersei dies.
No, it tried to make us almost cheer on the incestuous relationships.
Ziggy agrees with me.
Yeah.
He's got opinions.
But it just...
you hear him shaking his head in the background.
He was burying his head in his paws. But it
wanted to.
It just... Yeah, so much of it didn't ring true. And so much of it, again, was pointless. Like you said, the Euron thing. We saw him die, terrified, as his fleet got burnt. Brilliant. Why then have him wash up on shore and this utterly pointless that I don't think anyone watching this show went, what I need is a throwdown between the two potential fathers of Cersei's thing. Nope. He was done. He only came into this at the end of season 7. He's not a player that needed a send off, and yet then you've got people that didn't get any kind of and the Hound's send off was just shit. I
get that the Cleganes die together. I get in a way there's this thing of zombie. I feel if you really want to think about it in depth, more than what the show's allowing us to, the Hound went, the only way I'm going to take him down is to take him with me
and burn him in fire.
Yeah. But we don't get that moment to really let that land. That was only in retrospect.
It felt like a very oddly written episode based on the 7 series preceding this, and then the 4 episodes preceding this. They've built so much up that I don't think it's an excuse to go, well, some things just happen. No, you've built this up. No one had the golden compass in their thing. You put that, and obviously the rules are there to be broken. I like the Golden Company.
Oh,
sorry, I
switched mythologies.
But it built so much stuff, and I understand rules are there to be broken. You don't have to always give the ending that people expect. You don't have to always give pathos. You don't have to. I totally respect that, but to do it so consistently across one episode, in what personally came across as such a flippant meh. Like, how can you have? And let's go back to that. I don't want this to be a 20-minute, 25-minute bitch fest.
But it's gonna.
The amount that goes into the production, the amount that goes into these actors are sending off their characters. Fucking Lena Headey, who has gone, and she's had an arc. Okay, she's been
one of the leads in this whole show.
Imagine that being your end. She didn't say a word this entire episode,
and
really.
Also, where the fuck is Cersei's agency? She had...
I think they're trying to say that everyone from Tyrion to Cersei to was shocked at the madness of King George. No, madness of Queen Dany.
But you could do that so much simpler.
Exactly.
Without them losing their own characters.
Yeah.
And there is no way that Cersei knew that Daenerys was coming, right? There's no way she didn't know that.
And there's no way she didn't have a contingency plan.
Exactly. And I feel like there were these little weird clouds of wildfire, which is not how wildfire works, because they explained that to us in the Battle of Blackwater and later. And I was like, okay, well, so that just must just be like a few trace elements left from the last time that they used
the people
wildfire.
That find Doctor Who episodes in their loft. Oh, sorry, there was some upstairs.
I think there's subtext, and then there's really reaching to believe that was Cersei's backup plan. So what the fuck was her plan? To just stand and watch her tower when she knew that Daenerys was going to bring a dragon? And also, what the fuck was Dany's plan when she didn't just head straight to the Red Keep and just burn that motherfucker down?
Yeah, she knew where she was because she did the whole... Again, I think they're trying...
What the actual fuck?
I think they're trying to get across this madness, this Targaryen.
But it was already there. Everybody knew
exactly
at the end of last week. Yeah, she's mad and she's isolated. She's lost her 2 best friends. She's lost 2 of her children now. I was so even at the beginning of this episode, I was like, I really feel for her. She's so
and she got none
isolated.
She got none of the emotional music along with that.
No,
she just was mad.
And we followed Daenerys through this arc.
The only person
I'm not saying it's good versus evil, because obviously what she's just done is awfully evil.
But so has Cersei done many things similar.
Done it in such a different way. And also, I've got so many thoughts. The way that she attacks the Iron Fleet, why didn't she do that last week? Because she was in exactly the same position.
Writing.
If she'd come from behind them,
she wasn't in exactly the same position.
I would have maybe
she
got
had
it.
2 dragons last time. I know Rhaegar got quick killed.
But exactly, she was even more angry last week. Why the fuck didn't she do it then? I just don't get these decisions.
I don't
and I
get.
know they are racing towards the end. I get it.
But that's what it feels like.
But and there's a great thread that we shared from I wish I could remember. I'll look up his name from somebody on Twitter.
But that's
all about
like
how this has come about, and it's not actually the way that a lot of people have assumed it, including myself.
Absolutely.
I was really like surprised by it. I'm just looking it up right now.
It feels like it's racing. It feels like decisions are being made for the wrong reasons, and that's.
It was Daniel Silvermint. It was at D Silvermint on Twitter. Great thread. I very much recommend it.
We'll put that in the
show notes.
But yeah, I think it's so infuriating, especially as Joe said earlier, at this late stage where there is, you can't hide behind the fact that this is one of the most talked about and watched shows. So, you're gonna. I don't know. I don't know what I was expecting, but I just wasn't expecting meh and pointless decisions to be made at this stage. And
I feel like, I had high hopes for this week.
I really hit. I've got so back into, as you've heard from our season 7 episodes where we kind of went down and
we were quite disenfranchised.
And Game of Thrones, I feel like if you're talking about it in terms of Happy Days, which jumped the shark, Game of Thrones knocked over the lemon cart or the orange cart. Like that episode was where we really fell off, where Arya's with the wave, and that it really fell off after that. And then it steadily built back up, the intrigue steadily built back up, steadily even got me involved and invested in the Nightwalker thing, which has never been part of, the reason I'm interested in the show. Otherwise I watched The Walking Dead. But it's really done well in building it back up and making you realise why you got so into this from season 1 and investing in those core characters until tonight. And really, apart from Grey Worm, all of his character decisions tonight rang true.
Totally.
Because he's grieving after Missandei's death. He's still loyal to Dany, but he also has that moment of questioning, but he's also a bloodthirsty warrior. Like, all of his bits rang true.
Oh no, he's not bloodthirsty. That's all he knows. That's what he's trained in,
and that's what his
he totally rang true for me tonight. But and Jon Snow rang true for me tonight, and Tyrion mostly rang true for me tonight. But
anyway, we have laid into this
most
enough.
of the characters did not.
We'd love to hear what you think, because maybe people were being given lip service.
So yeah, we're watching this without looking at anything online to see what's going on. Apart from what we thought were big spoilers today, were actually turned out to be like nothing.
Well, the one I read was Dany died, so unless we didn't see that at the end, someone was being funny. That's
Do you
good.
think HBO hires people to put out fake news?
No,
Game of Thrones fake news.
But just quickly at the end, let's talk about the big thing.
What's that then? The dragon?
No. What the fuck does episode 6 look like?
Well, it's interesting you raised that. So at the end of last week's episode, we said we were going to put a poll up on Twitter to see how people thought the show was going to end.
Absolutely.
I'd like to say that we did not rehearse or discuss how we're doing this. It's
Genuinely.
just working this well. I'm so proud of us, especially after a bottle of wine. So we did a poll, which was how do you think Game of Thrones is going to end? And there were 4 options, which was Daenerys on the Iron Throne, which is still a possibility. No one will follow her, but she'll be on there. Jon on the Iron Throne, which is still a possibility after the death today.
Yep.
Tyrion on the Iron Throne, which I believe is still alive, still a possibility. And Westeros as a democracy.
Right.
So Twitter only allows for 4 options on a poll. Otherwise, I would love to have had Cersei on the Iron Throne and Sansa on the Iron Throne.
But a couple of our followers did ask for Sansa. So.
Yes, and I know that you're a Sansa believer. And I love Sansa, don't get me wrong. I'm still going for Westeros as a democracy.
Who won?
So the actual winner of the poll, I'm not sure. I don't know if having the Iron Throne is actually being a winner. But however,
the
most votes went to Jon on the Iron Throne, which I think is where the writers are trying to lead us down. And I'm hoping it's a misdirect. I don't know what but I hope it is a misdirect.
Here comes the man to save the day.
Yeah. Otherwise, it's the most obvious seeding of a plot line I've ever seen. And it can't actually be that. Otherwise, why are we watching?
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? Because you could say that about Harry Potter, that at the end of the books, Harry Potter will defeat Voldemort and go on to live a life married and working as an aura. You could say that that's obvious. It's the journey that you take to get to that point. Now, yeah, the whole R plus J equals John or whatever it was called.
I think it's R plus L equals J.
Yeah.
The worst algebraic.
It's been seeded for
equation.
a long time, since probably the show started, because the people reading the books had obviously already cottoned on to that. So I don't think it's necessarily bad for it to be that obvious. And, you know, did people guess that he was going to be stabbed by the Night's Watch and be brought back to life? Did they guess that he'd become the king beyond the wall? Did they guess that he'd become the Lord of the North of Winterfell? So I think in terms of his arc, it's not a problem to end there. It is a problem in my eyes to build up all the others and kind of throw them away as such.
Yeah, it feels like suddenly quite a lot of our lead roles are suddenly disposable.
Yeah. And not in a Game of Thrones way of like,
no,
really tricking you and making you go, fuck. Like,
in the way
that's
that,
really
when Ned Stark was beheaded, it was like, oh, what the fuck? But it's also very much dealt with in a way of it landed. And I don't just mean his head. I mean, it felt emotional. And we didn't get that.
No. We want more Neville Longbottoms than... I'm trying to think who's a wasted character in the Potter books. You know what I mean? Like,
I know even that.
No, even that. Like, and Snape. You know, those kind of things where actually you go, oh wow, that was a really interesting use of that character that's been seeded for us. Whereas it would be rubbish if next week they all go, well, Dany's a bit bad, isn't she? John, you are the rightful heir, and Varys was right. And there's just no change and no shape and no... I don't know, if it all just kind of gets to the point and goes, yeah, it was that one after all, rather than it be a triumph to get to that one, a real like, yes, we achieved that narrative pinnacle, you know, like and you know, okay, I won't go into Endgame, but doing that thing again, as I say, of being able to thread the line between lip service to fans, making an enjoyable narrative, and giving people some real kind of ooh moments, like, and
sorry, what moments?
Ooh. And I'm sorry, but the bells did not ring for me. They really didn't.
How long have you been working on that one?
I've just literally saw it.
You're just so good with the words.
But yeah, as I say, I don't want to badmouth this because this show has delivered.
Oh, but we have, and I will continue. I've still got so many more things to say. One of which is, I did not need to see the mountain's face.
No. Again, that's what I mean. Ready for the Clegane Bowl.
The Jaws rule. I don't need to see the shark.
Yeah.
I don't need to see the mountain's face.
Was absolutely ready for the Clegane Bowl. And actually, the moment he stood up to Cersei and the Maester and killed the Maester, was like, oh, okay, we've got something.
I was down with the killing of the Maester.
Yeah, something interesting is happening here. And then to reduce him to this shirtless zombie was like, really? Okay, really? Okay. And then, again, it's a bit like I said with the Arya thing of, we knew that you weren't going to kill the Hound. So actually doing the eyes thing again, it felt like they were pushing too long and too hard. A bit like with the Jaime thing of,
yeah, we get it, guys.
Euron's not going to kill Jaime.
Yeah, we get it.
Yeah. So it just feels like a bit of a waste of time, because you then didn't get that glory moment of someone overthrowing it. Just kind of went, yeah, go on, we'll die together. Like, I don't know, it just didn't fit together for me.
What we just did there with that little bit of dead air was we just gave a lot more gravitas to your point than they gave to the Clegane's death.
Whoa!
I'd like to just point out that we've had a bottle of wine again. Wow. This is so not what I expected tonight.
No.
I wasn't like going, it's going to be the best episode of Game of Thrones ever.
No.
I actually thought that basically things would be wrapped up quite a lot tonight. And that next week's episode would be a little bit like the end of Lord of the Rings, where it's just a lot of goodbyes.
And you would have wanted that?
I would prefer that because I want to say goodbyes.
No, I wouldn't have preferred that
Good
at all.
goodbyes.
I would not have preferred that at all.
But I wanted the siege of King's Landing, or the whatever you want to call it, of King's Landing, to have this big moment that felt like it deserved, or that was the story that we deserved. And I mean that for everybody.
And I think that would have come. Hi, Ziggs.
Ziggy's really opinionated about this show.
I think that would have come with actually the beginning of the episode. Everything, that moment where Dany sits on the parapet as the bells start to ring. Who we still don't even know who fucking rang the bells. We think it was Jaime.
That was the plan, wasn't it? It was supposed to be Jaime. And the last we saw is he was heading
Jaime,
off to do it.
But we didn't see.
Yeah.
And that moment would have been really powerful to have then gone, right, let's actually get back into the politics of the show. You've just killed someone for going again. Like, it would have been really interesting to see discussion at that point rather than pretty much an hour of Dany flying around, not talking to anyone, Tyrion looking shocked and not talking to anyone.
How cool would it have been to have like Jon Snow or Tyrion sort of flagging her down and having a conversation, or her sort of wrestling
Just
with her conscience and going like,
yeah.
oh my God, what have I done? Or
because also, what do we go into next week with? Everyone goes into next week hating her, thinking she's a mad
she can't
tyrant.
be the queen anymore.
There's nothing. It just feels so.
So not her character.
Set up, but not in a clever way that's been set up for 8 seasons. Set up in a kind of, it's inevitable. And that's the worst. It was exactly what Winterfell didn't do. The Battle of Winterfell didn't do that. It actually made you go, oh my, I wasn't expecting that actually. Like, it just...
Do you know what it's making me think of? 10 Things I Hate About You.
Okay.
For anyone who doesn't know us personally, that starts a lot of my sentences.
Yeah.
When Julia Stiles' character, Kat, is in detention, and... No. Yeah.
What?
Yeah, and Heath Ledger's character is trying to get her, like, sneak her out. And then, like, to avoid him, like, getting caught sneaking her out, she ends up having to flash her teacher to get out to, like, distract him more. And it was all about learning about misdirection.
Okay.
Right?
I mean, you remember it better than I do, but okay, we'll go
I've
with
seen
it.
it many times.
Okay, I don't remember this scene.
I feel like that misdirection was more clever. Because I feel like there's no, like... This path feels like it's just straight, like, this happened, and this happened, and this happened. And there's no, like, misdirection of, like, storytelling to get you to that point. It's just ABC with no, like, 0.0, 0.1, point.
Would you almost say it's pointless?
It's oh my God, is that where the meaning of pointless comes from?
Yeah. And this episode could literally be a dictionary definition for pointless. And I know that sounds really harsh, but I'm sorry. I
don't want to hate this.
No, it really let me down.
I'm so upset.
If you listened to our episode last week, you heard how excited we were and how embroiled we were with this again. And it just feels like, it was...
Yeah,
we
had a glimmer of hope.
Do you know what this episode was? It was the Bronn scene again of just pointless...
It's
We're going to just... But it brought him in for a quick goodbye that was kind of pointless and we don't believe is going to have any resolution. And if it does, it will be pretty pointless. And that's a rubbish point to get to.
Okay, so moving on to positive thoughts about Game of Thrones. There was something.
Over.
Sorry?
It's over.
Well, no, it's nearly over.
Yeah.
No, hang on. During the episode, like when the two armies were squaring off at each other
Yeah.
outside the gates,
Yeah.
you were like, oh my God, is this where Michael Huisman turns up again? And it's made me think, well, when is Michael Huisman going to turn up again?
Nope.
I love saying his name. Huisman. Is he going to come back now?
I don't care.
You just completely... Are you even going to bother watching the final?
No, I will. I just... yeah, I
Can
don't
you
know.
imagine getting this far and just going, nah.
I mean, there's a part of me that is kind of, nah, I'm alright. I'd like to be excited again, but and maybe upon reflection, maybe we'll feel slightly differently. But I do feel that this has done a lot of very odd damage.
I feel like I might ask Now TV for a small refund.
I think we're just going round and round, and I don't like to be so negative.
No, okay, so yeah, the positive things this week were Varys' goodbye was really touching.
Yeah.
The goodbye between Tyrion and Jaime was touching.
Mm-hmm.
The way that Drogon appeared behind Daenerys.
Yeah, that was good. Varys.
When he was going to kill Varys, that was really cool.
Yeah.
Any other positives?
I'd be reaching if I was genuinely to actually name one. I've been wanting to go back down into the keep with the big dragon skulls since series 1. That wasn't the way I wanted to do it.
No.
So no.
Because also that never really had ways out in it before, did it? Because it's always been pitch black.
Tyrion's got out before. There's lots of ways out.
But they made it look like there were about 50 exits. Sorry.
Yeah.
That are all bricked up. It was weird. Anyway, yeah. So positives.
No, I'm pretty much. I found it a very upsetting episode. As a viewer and a fan, I did not gain. I was constantly sat there feeling let down, I suppose, and that's rubbish to have that feeling.
It is.
Yeah. Maybe that's my fault. Maybe that's a lot more down to my own personality. Maybe that's down to what I was expecting. I don't know. So I'd be really interested to hear other people's.
I'm really intrigued to hear what other people thought and to like go through social media now and be like, okay, I can catch up.
Absolutely.
Okay, so before we wrap up, next week is the last episode ever of Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
What's going to happen, Jay?
You're probably right that it is going to end up being a little bit of a Lord of the Rings Return of the King.
No, but at the moment, where it stands, Drogon's just going to be breathing fire forever. I mean, he's going to eat at some point, right? He's going to have to stop to have a break. So Jon's pulled back the army. Tyrion was last seen on the beach.
Yeah.
We believe Cersei and Jaime are dead.
Yeah,
and I'm pretty sure that that's definite.
Arya's riding to Winterfell, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah, where is Arya going?
But yeah, so I suppose the way they've left it is that the North are loyal to Jon Snow. Sansa's loyal to Jon Snow. The Wildlings are loyal to Jon Snow.
Oh my God, it's going to be Jon on the bloody throne.
So
He's going to be a miserable king.
I don't know what else they can do, really. I'd be very interested to see what they do, but it feels like it's such a bottleneck that anything else would be even more presumptuous than what they've already done, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, no,
I, for the sake of my own self-preservation, have to rebuild my hopes for next week. I want it to end on a high. I really do. And I'm rooting for it to have a reason for this week.
Yeah.
You know? That there might be something next week that justifies this episode.
I'm hoping there's more discussion and thought and talk and character development, because I think that's often the thing is when a show or a film ends, wrapping up characters, you don't always get the best out of it. Whereas actually, unless everyone in your film is dying or TV show is dying, like Lost, then, and even that still had character development in those final seasons, and even in the final episode, Jack had character development, Desmond had character development, and I'm sure quite a few others did. I can't remember the precise
Last
details.
rewatch.
Yeah. But yeah, I hope that there's still room for some character development. So maybe there will be some discussions between Danny's council, and there'll be some actual progress based on what's happened. I hope it's not as simple and cut as you're on your own, dragon lady. You know, it's just, you know, that kind of Westerosian.
What did he say? What was that voice?
You're on your own, dragon lady.
Oh, you're on your own, dragon lady.
Yeah. I what about you?
I can't even. I'm kind of with you, actually. Of like, I hope there's something cleverer and unexpected about to happen. But at the moment, it feels like it's just going, oh, we'll put John on the throne, he'll hate it. Maybe he will turn it into democracy.
Maybe he will.
Yeah.
Maybe it is the democracy. Tyrion, John,
just feels,
Davos.
It feels
all the men will sort out the women's mess. Isn't that
it feels
worrying?
A bit
Isn't
like
that worrying?
Post-colonial, like,
yeah.
It just feels a bit icky as a solution. If that's the solution, I will find it icky.
Sansa for the throne.
Sansa for the throne. Cool. Okay, well, thank you to everybody who voted in the poll.
Yeah. Thank you for all your feedback on Twitter and Instagram, and please let us know this week what your thoughts are for episode 6. Oh my god, the last episode.
The finale, the grand series finale of Game of Thrones. Thanks very much for listening, guys. For our penultimate Thrones Down.
It's a Thrones Down.